Okay, so what we've got to do is build a picture of the relationship between price and supply. What we need to see is if I offer you a higher price, if price rises, what happens to the amount of supply? Now, that simple statement actually covers a lot of what it is that students find difficult about supply. Because what we're saying is that this idea of supply is explaining situations in which if the price was to change, how much do you produce? How do you respond to that? And that means that we're only looking at particular types of market because it doesn't explain then the market for iPhones. If the chief executive of Apple doesn't wake up one morning and kind of go, oh my God, the price of iPhones has gone up. What shall I do? Shall I produce more? In that case, the price of iPhones is set by the firm itself. So we're looking at markets where firms are what are called price takers. They accept the price that's given. And therefore we're looking at things like commodities, like oil or coffee. Or we're looking about the market for housing, for example. You don't really choose what price to sell your house for. You have to accept what the market determines. It can be used to explain things like exchange rates and so on. So we're talking about a situation where we've got a market with lots and lots of small suppliers, and selling things over which they have no real control over the price. So a good example is the market for coffee. And let's imagine that we've got a coffee grower in South America, and they're trying to increase the amount of coffee that they're producing. Now, in the short run, so at this stage, a useful thing to look at is some definitions. The short run in economics is the period of time in which you're operating. So the long run is a planning period. You're kind of saying, so suppose I could do this, this, and this. The short run is the period in which you're operating. And the short run is defined by the period of time in which you face some sort of constraints. You can't simply produce as much as you want. And the reason is that we assume in the short run that there is at least one fixed factor of production. Usually we assume that to be land or capital or something like that. And there's one variable factor of production, which we generally assume to be labour. In the long run, all factors of production are variable. You can do whatever you want. So in the short run, there's something that you can't change. So let's imagine we've got our coffee grower. In the short run, their fixed factor of production is going to be land. They've got a certain amount of land, and in the short run, over the next few months or year or even years, possibly, there's not a whole heap they can do about it. They're constrained by that factor of production. So if they want to increase output, they're going to have to add more and more of their variable factor of production to their fixed factor of production. So they can add more and more workers onto their land to try and increase their harvest. But in the short run, they can't increase the amount of land that they've got. So let's suppose that we've got our coffee grower, and let's suppose we've got no workers. Well, he's not going to be able to harvest, or she is not going to be able to harvest any coffee at all. So the amount of coffee produced will be zero. Suppose we employ a worker, to harvest our coffee. Well, great. We're going to start harvesting, lots of coffee. Let's suppose he can produce, or she can produce 20 bags a day or whatever. Suppose we employ a second worker. Well, actually, you might think that the amount of coffee would double to 20. So from 20 to 40, double by 20, But actually they might be able to work as a team. So one might be able to harvest the pods, the other one split them. However coffee works, I don't know. Let's suppose that actually output rises to 50. However, what's going to happen, of course, is that eventually, we're going to start running out of space. So as we add a third worker, maybe output doesn't rise as much now, because they're starting to get in one another's way. Nevertheless, it's still better to have 3 workers than 2. So let's suppose that output goes up to 70. If I employ a fourth, again, it goes up, but not as much. A fifth, output goes up a bit, but not as much. And by the time we employ a 6th worker, output doesn't rise at all. So what's happening? Initially, output rises more quickly because we can have teamwork and specialisation and so on. But eventually, output starts to rise more slowly. So that's my total output of coffee. And what we're interested in is what's called the marginal product. How much extra is produced? So this worker adds 20. This worker adds 30. this worker adds 20, this adds 10, that one adds 5, and that one adds 0. So this is called the principle of diminishing returns, marginal returns, or the principle of diminishing returns to a factor. Yeah, so what's happening is after a certain point, the increase, the extra amount, starts to get less. That's what's meant by diminishing returns. So output is still rising, but it's rising more slowly. And the reason that it's rising more slowly, is that the fixed factor of production, land, is getting overused. There's just not enough space for all these workers to operate in. So therefore their ability to contribute, their ability to increase output is reduced. So output is rising, but it's rising more and more slowly. So let's have a think now about, well, what would that mean? Let's lose that one for a minute. What would that mean for the firm's cost then? And let's suppose that we can employ a worker for £100 a day. And that's our only cost, we're going to assume. We're going to employ workers at £100 a day. So let's take the first worker. How much does each of his bags or her bag of coffee cost? We're paying £100 a day. Their marginal product is 20. So therefore it's costing an extra £5 per bag. The extra cost of each one of those bags is £5. If we employ a second worker, they produce 30 bags. So that's an extra per bag, £3.33 per bag, because that's simply £100 that we pay them divided by 30 bags of coffee. So let's suppose we employ a third worker. We pay them £100. They produce us an extra 20 bags of coffee, so each bag of coffee is an extra £5 per bag. The fourth worker is therefore an extra £10 per bag, and the fifth worker is an extra £20 per bag. So what we can do is, what we can see, this concept here is called marginal, and all marginal means in economics is it means extra. Here's the extra output, the marginal product, the extra product. This is the extra cost, so that is marginal cost. And if we were to try and draw that now, if we try to draw that on a diagram, then what we'd see, is that, for our first, so that's going to be cost in pounds, that's going to be quantity, bags of coffee. We said that our first 20 bags of coffee, each one cost us about £5. The next 30, each one cost us about £3.33. The next 20 cost us £5 each. The next 10 cost us £10 each. And the next 5 cost us £20 each. So we have a marginal cost curve that looks like that. So we're taking one simple producer, so we get these little kind of ridges or steps, because we're looking very, very closely in. What a marginal cost curve will look like, when you see one in a textbook, is it'll look more smooth like that. That's our marginal cost. And what it's saying then is the 30th bag of coffee costs, say, £5. The 60th bag of coffee costs, say, £15, and the 90th bag of coffee, that costs a lot, that's, say, £45. So that's the principle of diminishing returns to a factor. Up to this point, we have what are called increasing returns to the variable factor. Because of teamwork, each worker is more productive than the one before. After that point, we have diminishing returns. Each worker is adding less than they did before because the fixed factor of production gets overused. Now, in a minute, we'll turn to how that determines supply, how we can use that marginal cost curve to explain supply.